Hello, everybody. Good morning to whom is in China and India. Good evening to whom is in Brazil. We are going to wait a few more minutes in order to let the other join us, right? And we'll start soon. Just to inform you, I have moved everybody, right? So if you have any questions, please do it through the chat that we have in the Zoom platform, okay? Okay, now I think we can start. We have 4 minutes after midnight here in Brazil. So I would like to thank you, everybody, which take your time to watch what we are explaining here about the new regulations for pesticide registration and research in Brazil. First of all, I would like to pass on some orientations about how the webinar will work out. First of all, the timeline. So the webinar will take 1.5 hours, right? So we are going to have a 10 minutes Q&As after our speech. And if you have any question during the webinar, please write down in the chat, and I will take the note of all the questions that you have, and we'll do it for our speaker afterwards, okay, during the Q&A time. Also, I would like to share with you that the webinar will be recorded, is being recorded, and will be shared with you in our platform, our YouTube platform, Smart Talks Learning. Okay, so we are going to inform you when it's available and subtitled in Portuguese very soon by our LinkedIn platform. So follow us in the LinkedIn platform that we are going to be informed through there. Okay. I think the orientation is that. And before we start the webinar, I would like to present to you and speak a little bit more about Smart Talks. Right. So Smart Talks was born in 2017 with a previous talks experience that we had during our career, right? So our experience was intended to offer a smart solution to the agribusiness industry, and that solutions bring some services which currently make the Smart Talks act as our hub of agro solutions, focused on pesticides, but not only in pesticides, also in biological products and fertilizers and so on. We act in the national, international markets, with also having partners national, internationally, building a multidisciplinary team to offer the best solutions to our clients, right? So we have partners all over South America. As you can see in this slide, we have Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. We act in all those countries with partners, local partners, which have a lot of experience, most of them more than 20 years of experience doing the registrations there. So we use them to support us, support our clients with the registration in those countries. And in Brazil, not only in Brazil, but also in other countries that we can adapt to, we offer the services listed here, which is predictive toxicology, which is requested for Brazil, Europe, Mexico, for not only for regulatory purpose, but also for exploratory purpose, right? Together with the QSAR, we also do the SAR services for Europe and also for Australia, which requests such previous study before QSAR. Also, we provide risk assessment for environmental evaluation, human exposure, dietetic and non-dietetic evaluation. And also we have authorities requirements and technical advice, which is some requirements that you might have from the Brazilian authorities, which can be technical and scientifically, right? So we support to prepare and defend the requirements of technical for the competent authorities. We provide toxicology evaluation and studies which comprises the registration dossier, and also the evaluation, the company evaluation advice, which we call here in Brazil PAT, right? So we assist preparation of necessary documentation on the legislation 10184, right, published in 2017. And our team, we have a multidisciplinary team, as I informed you before, which are comprised by myself, I'm a biologist with MBA in Strategic Business Management and Agribusiness. Together with us, we have Bruno Sanchez, which will be the speaker, and we are going to present him very soon, which is pharmacist, specialist in regulatory affairs. We have Pedro Guvi, which is chemistry, PhD, specialist in formulation development, which is one of our partner. Hernan Broadley, which is chemistry, PhD, specialist in regulatory affairs. We have Paulo Hor, which is specialist in alternative methods. And for risk assessment, we have Mario Flynn, which is toxicologist, PhD. And last but not least, Fatima Pedroso, which is also toxicologist, PhD. To support our business and the market evaluation, we have a market responsibility. We have Alessandro Santana, and also Bianca Rosa, which is our trainee for administrative and commercial department. So that's the main core personnel which works with us for the services that we provide to the market. Of course, we have another partner which is not mentioned here because this slide is very small to comprise all the partners that we have that I shown in the last slides. So now I would like to present you our speaker, Bruno. Bruno is a regulatory affairs professional with 15 years of experience in the agrochemical and pharmaceutical industry, graduated in bachelor degree and in this industrial pharmacy from the State University of Londrina. Bruno has a strong background on regulatory activities such as regulations and guidelines, technical dossier elaboration, and will share with us his analysis of the main pesticide regulatory chains recently published by Brazilian authorities. So Bruno, present yourself and let's start to talk about it.
Okay, thank you, Alexandre. Hope you are listening me well. Hope not having any issue with the connection. So if for any reason I have been frozen here, just let me know. So thank you for the opportunity and being invited to talk about this very interesting and challenging regulatory updates for Brazil. And also thank you very much for all attendees that are connected here with us from different parts of the globe. And feel free to ask questions through the chat, as Alexandre already mentioned. It's some of the topics are not so difficult to understand. Some may be quite complex to implement. So you are more than welcome to ask questions if it's not something's not clear. And hope we all have a very good webinar and discussion here today.
Right. So, Bruno, we are all very interested to know, from your point of view, why has the pesticide regulation been updated in Brazil?
So, Alexandre, the regulatory updates constantly happen for several reasons. Before answering on each one specifically, I would like to briefly explain what exactly has changed in terms of legislation in Brazil, because sometimes it's quite confused for those who are not familiar with the Brazilian regulations. So it's just an overview to better understand. So do we have a new law or a new decree or a new normative? So not exactly, and it's what I'm going to show here now. The pesticide law remains the same, so it's the law 7802 from 1989, and this law was updated once on June 2000. After that, the famous Decree 474 was published on 2002, and it regulates the law, so with the main requirements for registering a pesticide in Brazil. And this decree, the 474 decree, it was updated a few times, starting with the Decree 5549 from 2005, that mainly updated some requirements related to components, co-formulants. Then later on 2006, the famous Decree 5981. So this decree established in Brazil the equivalence procedure, so for technical products, and also the similarity procedure for formulated products. When I say similarity, it's more or less a way to register a generic product. Then on 2009, the Decree 6913, so also updated the Decree 4074, including some organic agriculture topics, and most recently, the Decree 10833 from October 21. That's where we are going to enter on a deeply way today. So to clarify what are the new changes on the Decree 4074. So by the end, the law from 89 still remains valid. Also, the decree from 2002 still remains valid, with all of them with their specifically updates. So, as I mentioned, the regulation change, it's because of several reasons, and specifically here because the government needed to update, let's say, outdated legislation due to technological science advances, and also to better establish some operational procedures, so internal procedures in terms of regulatory evaluations. So here we can see that there was a necessity to review some procedures involving the pesticide registration analysis in order to increase internal efficiency, so from the authorities. Also, the government identified the necessity to implement actions to protect the pesticide applicators, and also to facilitate research with pesticides to enable technological innovations. So altogether, the government is aiming for the following objectives. So to increase competition in the pesticide market, to enable the registration of more modern and less toxic products, and also reducing costs for the producers. So everything together is with this objective. So to have faster approval, safer products, and to reduce the costs for the producers. And what are the main changes? So which are the main changes? Here I just listed the main topics that we are going to enter today on each one. So here we can see that this a decree update, so it brings news on pesticide applicator registration. It also brings new requirements in terms of GAS, new agronomic efficiency criteria for similar products here for generic products, simplification of research permits and also export registrations. So export registrations. So that's HET and HEC that we say here in Brazil. Prioritization of new products. This update also established some new criteria here, and new regulatory timelines that I'm sure most of you are quite interested to understand what are the impacts on in terms of regulatory timelines, because it's from my personal opinion is today one of the most challenged here for Brazil. This decree also provides some post-registration improvements, also to increase internal efficiency from the authorities. There's a slightly update on quality control unit that we are going to mention, and it can be a subject that can involve future inspections from the authorities. So it's important to mention and to clarify this point. And by the end, we are also going to talk very briefly about publicity and different trademarks for the same registration, and some updates on organic agriculture use and on production. So these are the main changes that the decree 100 and 18033 brought to the decree 4074. The first change that we are going to discuss is related to the pesticide applicator registration. So the decree 4074 previously it brought only it says only that individuals and companies that works with application services they could provide information about their activities to the authorities only if requested. Need to be prepared and ready to provide. And what's new today with the update, with these new updates? So the government created the pesticide applicator definition. So who applies or supervises the application of pesticides and related products. And what's really new is the creation of, let's say, a registration for pesticide applicators. So these professionals, they will be able to exercise their activities from December 31st from 2026 on. So all of them will need to be registered on the states and federal authorities to exercise their activities. So this is new. It's the first time that the federal government established that.
Sounds great, Bruno. Very clear explanation. And I would like just to inform, we have like 28 people joining us here right now at the webinar. Everybody very interested about what you are saying. Very clear explanation about this subject. So, Bruno, in practical terms, how do the change with the adoption of GHFs, the GHS, reflects in the new decree 10833?
G8S, it's an interesting question because I will just put this next slide here. So in practice, nothing changed because okay, the decree, the 4074 decree didn't establish any toxicological classification system. So here before this update. But we need to remember that Anvisa already implemented G8S on 2019 based on the regulation, the normative 294. So Anvisa is already, Anvisa for those who are not familiar, so sorry, Anvisa is our health agency. So Anvisa already use G8S as a reference for toxicological classification and also for hazard labeling statements. So basically here, what's new for the decree is the inclusion of G8S definition, and it says that it should be considered for the purpose of classification, toxicological classification, and communication of health hazard on labels. And this is already been done so by Anvisa and by the companies. So in practice, it's the same. As I mentioned before, so these updates, sometimes it's to cover these outdated definitions that the government already implemented somehow. Okay, so the next subject here is about new agronomic efficiency criteria for similar products or generic products. Previously, we could see on Decree 4074 that efficacy studies were required. So let me just introduce the requirement before entering here in the change. So in 2006, with the adoption of the equivalence procedure and also similarity procedure for formulated products, the registrants, they could waive some studies, here specifically efficacy, for some cases where data protection was already expired, and the companies could ask this waive if these criteria were considered. So if the product being developed and applied had the same formulation type as the reference that is in the market, and also with the same uses. So here, crops and doses. If the developed product attended these two criteria, then the company could waive the efficacy studies. So it wasn't necessary to provide. That's what we call similarity. So the product is registered based on the reference product type. What's new today? So basically, it changed formulation type per active ingredient. So now this criteria is, I can say that it's broader, because a company can develop a product and can compare it with a reference or with another product that has a different formulation type. So this wasn't possible before, and now it is. So, for example, if you develop an SC product, you can now ask a way for efficacy studies if the reference is an EC formulation. So if, for sure, if you attend the second item, so considering the same use and the same doses, so the same application doses in the field. And it's one of the improvements that the government did to stimulate new developments for similar generic products. And for sure, it will provide more flexibility for new products. And just important to remember that this change is valid only for efficacy studies. So residue, physical, chemical, toxicotox, so everything remain the same.
Thank you, Bruno. You have mentioned before about RET, that we call in Brazil. What are the new requirements for RET, and which studies are exempt of it now?
Well, following the new efficacy requirements, so the government also provided some change involving the research permits, as you just mentioned. So research HAT, we say HAT in Brazil, is a special registration, temporary for research, and it's also called as EUP by other international agencies, experimental use permit. So basically, the new regulation facilitates research activities already registered active ingredients carried out by companies, institutions accredited, so all that are related to research. What is new today is that the HAT, the special registration, will not be requirement for products that have an already approved active ingredient in Brazil. So previously, the requirement was for all products, so with the new AIs and with already registered AIs. And for now, research with the proposal for registration. So if the active ingredient is already registered in Brazil, you don't need the HAT for research anymore. Exceptionally, the HAT may be issued here, the second topic, for import needs. Why? Because when research is done in Brazil and the companies need to import samples, so technical products or formulated products, HAT is still necessary for importation procedures. So it's not a request for the research, but it's a request for the importation. So the companies can apply for HATs normally mainly because of this demand. And the new point is that in the future, all HATs requests and approvals will be published by the government, in SAI. So SIA is a system that is still under development by the government, so it's not working for now. So today the hacks are not published. So in the future it will be in this new system. Following, we also have some changes for export registrations, also called as hacks here in Brazil. Basically, before this update, so there were some limitations in terms of export registration, as the companies could ask hacks for products containing a product already registered in Brazil with a different trademark. So let's say you have a product A registered in Brazil for the local market, and you want to export this product to another country, but with a different trademark. So same product with a different trademark. You could ask a hex. It probably would be approved within 6 months, not too long. If you provide here these 3 documents, so the copy of register certificate of your product in Brazil, the destination, and the trademark in the country destination. But you could also ask a hex for non-registered product in Brazil. But there was a huge disadvantage because in addition to this information here, you would not also need to provide the technical data for this product. So you would need to provide physical, chemical, toxic, ecotox data without the necessity to provide efficacy and residue, because it's only specifically for Brazil. But the other technical studies, it should be provided. So asking hacks for non-registered product in Brazil wasn't interest because of the cost on generating studies that sometimes weren't available, and also because of the timeline. So it was quite long as a regular product. So sometimes taking 4 or 5 years to approve a hex of a product that wasn't registered in Brazil. And what's new now is this obligation to provide the technical dossier, so it doesn't exist anymore. If the active ingredient is registered in Brazil, so, and also the components, the co-formulants, the companies can apply for hex just providing the product composition, the production process, factors and formulation sites, the label of the destination country and the destination country, and the registration in the destination country. So if you provide that, the hex will be issued within 60 days. So there's no requirement, so no anymore the requirement for providing studies for products that are not approved in Brazil.
Bruno, we know already that MAPA has already published a regulation 163/2015 that established the criteria for products prioritization, pests with greater phytosanitary risk, integrated management to avoid resistance, increase competitiveness, stimulate national manufacturing and formulation. What changes with this decree updated?
Alexandre, indeed, this is a very important point of the decree. So to cover an outdated part of the legislation. So as you know, most of you are probably aware. So prioritizations of new products are already happening in Brazil since 2016, when the first list was published. But the Decree 4074, it described only priorities based on low toxicity products. And now with this regulation, with this new update, so with the Decree 10833, it will be aligned with the regulation that you just mentioned, the 163 from 2015. So MAPA, what's new that we can consider here? The criteria are the same as established on the normative 163. So products with products against pests with greater phytosanitary risk, products used to avoid resistance, increase competitiveness. So it's the same. So basically, the new decree, it says that MAPA will establish in the future a specific regulation to define how the products are prioritized. So the criteria to better clarify the way the products are selected to a priority list. So probably it will be a tool that will rank the products based on the criteria that we already know. Products that are prioritized by MAPA, so they are followed by Anvisa and IBAMA, so this is already done. So I have all lists that are published by MAPA. Anvisa and IBAMA also consider as priority, so the products are evaluated first. And another thing that they consider is one technical product per active ingredient will be automatically prioritized for each formulation. Because sometimes when a product is prioritized, it has 3, 4, 5 technical products linked to it that are not registered yet. And then the company will need to consider only the technical product that was used as support for the formulation. So the one that was used to generate the samples. And the others will be excluded, and then they can be added later after their registrations.
Right. Prioritization is something that everybody chase after, because that reduces time, right? Before I do the next question to you, I would like to just remind everybody which is joining here that please make the questions about the interesting subject that we are talking about to Bruno afterwards. I reply all of them to you. Okay, so I encourage you to write down in the chat the questions that you might have in order to be returned to you during this webinar. Okay, so Bruno, we were talking about time. So we know that the regulatory timeline in Brazil is very long. Which are the new deadlines established by the government, and how will they implement it?
Alexandre, this will be a huge challenge for the authorities during the next years. First, just as a general introduction, I will explain the new timelines first for ordinary products, and then after that, the new timelines for the priority products. So the government separated ordinary and priorities. So previously, the timeline established on the Decree 4074 believe me, it was just 120 days. And this timeline, so it was defined on 2002, so it was the reality at that time. And however, nowadays we already know that it's not being followed by far. So we can see products, if we consider the mean time, the average time of for a formulated product, today it's around 5 to 6 years. So, but we also have cases of products being approved with 8, 9, and also 10 years or more. So that's the reason this will be a huge challenge for the authorities to implement the new timelines that they are proposing here. So for ordinary applications, new active ingredients. So here just new active ingredients and its formulations. 36 months, so 3 years for a new technical product, counted from the date of protocol, and additional 12 months for new formulated product and premix. Here premix, it's also called MUP, so in other countries, so manufacturing, forgot exactly the definition, but it's the intermediate used to formulate the products. So in total, we have here 4 years, so 36 plus 12 months, so 4 years to approve, to evaluate, approve, or disapprove a new active ingredient. It's quite different from what we see today. So for ordinary products, a new active ingredient, it's taking more than 10 years. So when it's a new active ingredient, that it's not in a priority. This 12-month timeline for formulated products, so it's valid only for products applied on an interval of 3 months after the application of the technical product. So this is to avoid the companies to apply a technical product and then years later apply a new formulation, and the company asks to evaluate the most recent product. And the government, they don't want to do that, so they want to evaluate the technical product and the formulated product that were applied one close to the other. And this is valid just for new active ingredients. When we go to equivalence and general formulated products, the previous timeline was the same, so 120 days. And now the government is proposing a timeline of 24 months for equivalence, so technical products through equivalence after the protocol, and 24 months for formulated products and premix. So here for formulated products, so it can be divided on two possibilities. So one, if your technical product is already registered, so the timeline will be counted from the protocol of the formulation. But if your technical product is not approved yet, so the second case here, the 24 months will be counted just after the approval of the technical product. So that's a slightly difference here. And the government also defined timelines for post-registrations. So previously it was also 120 days, and now it's 12 months for changes at the technical product. So change of synthesis, changes of specifications, so everything related to technical products. And also 12 months for changes on the formulations and premix. So here they do not separate timelines based on different post-registrations. So here we need to consider in general for all. So for sure, 12 months probably will be the longer timeline for the post-registrations that are more complex, that demand technical analysis, for example, inclusion of crop, change of composition. But there are some post-registrations that do not require technical analysis that will probably be approved faster. So today we have examples of post-registrations being approved within 1 to 3 months, depending on the change, if it's a small change. And then here we have the new timelines for priorities. So if we consider a priority product, so after the product being defined by the Minister of Agriculture and the list published, so here we are talking about a new active ingredient. The new timeline for a priority new active ingredient is 12 months. So if we remember, the ordinary is 36. So here for a priority is 12 months. And 6 additional months for the formulations. So we're talking about 1 year, more or less 1.5 years for priorities products that have new active ingredients, and also 6 months for formulated products here. So it's the same. So if it has the technical product, so the timeline will be counted from the technical product approval, or if it's already approved, then it will be counted from the publication of the priority list. It's more or less the same as the ordinary products. And for equivalence and regular formulated products. So priorities. So here we are talking about prioritized products. So it will be 6 months for equivalence, so equivalent technical products, and 6 months for the formulations. So in total, it can take around 1 year. So considering if your technical product is not approved yet. If the technical product is approved, then 6 months for the formulation after the priority list be published. So it's a challenge. So these timelines, they are more or less aligned with other international agencies. So between 2 to 4 years, depending on the complexity of the product. And it's quite far on what we are seeing today, products being approved within 6 to 10 years or more. So that's the reason the government is setting actions to reduce internal bureaucracies, and so they can focus on what is relevant. For example, the analysis evaluations of new applications. But we have a transition period. The government, for sure, they cannot implement the new timelines immediately because of several reasons. So mainly because of internal operational limitations. And so they created a transition period that says the federal authorities, so they will have 4 years counted from the decree update, so counted from October 21. So the government 4 years to analyze the pending process. So basically, to take what is in the registration queue out of the timeline that they just set here, and put, let's say, put everything, organize everything to attend the new timeline. So during these four years. And in addition, products that are being applied, for example, today, so they can be extended for 24 months. So by the end, if we consider an equivalence and a formulation product, that the new timeline is 2 years, and the government can extend it for additional 2 years. By the end, it's also 4 years that it's the transition period. So we are expecting considerable change in terms of timeline, probably something close to 2026, so something close to this transition. Considering the need to reduce internal bureaucracies or to avoid losing time on more administrative process. So the government also created some post-registrations improvements that I will mention here. These improvements here, they are closely linked to 3 public consultations that are under discussion, and they will be published soon. I don't know if still during this year, but probably during next year. So 3 public consultations to increase some regulatory procedures, and by the end to increase the government efficiency in terms of analysis. And the change here in the decree is linked on what will be set later on when the public consultations be approved. So previously we had post registrations being applied only in MAPA. Example, some simple process such as inclusion of target, change of trademark, and we also had products being applied to these 3 ministries, so MAPA, Anvisa, and IBAMA, such as products that basically demand technical analysis, a change of composition, inclusion of formulation site that now is one of the changes that they propose. And implementation after the official Gazette Union publication. So this is the tool to publish and so the companies can implement the change. What's new? So inclusion of formulation site, that is something quite bureaucratic. Now it can submit it only to MAPA based on a certificate of analysis or statement from the new site. This is something that returned. In the past, companies used to apply statements from new formulation sites. After that, Anvisa blocked this action because it wasn't included in the decree. So the companies needed to generate certificate of analysis for each new formulation site. And now the figure of the statement, it returned. So the companies can apply new sites based just only on formulation site statements saying that they are technically able to formulate the product. And also some post-registrations that do not require a technical analysis, for example, change of trademark, corporate name, exclusion of manufacturer, change of address. So these changes will be more or less like a notification. So the companies need to communicate the registration, needs to communicate the MAPA, the Minister of Agriculture, and based on the current environment, the companies still need to wait the publicity, so the publication in the official gazette, to implement these changes. So as they are notifications, they will probably be faster. So there's no technical analysis, it's just an internal administrative procedure to publicate. The other point here that I would like to briefly discuss is about on quality control unit. It's not a huge change in the decree, but it's something that can impact the companies during the next years in terms of fiscalization. So the decree 4074, it already brought before the update the requirement for producers and importers on having local quality control units. So when we say local quality control units, it's in Brazil. So quality control in Brazil, with the purpose of verifying the quality of the products that were being produced and or imported. However, this specifically demanded, it wasn't the government, they weren't demand this from the companies, probably because there was different criteria for local producers and importers. Because if we see here previously, local producers could carry out this analysis on their own quality control units, or they could also do the analysis on external laboratories, for example, private laboratories. So this exception was valid only for local producers. And what the government did now, so they just included importers. So now producers and importers, they can do their own quality control on their own unit or on private laboratories. So the criteria now are equal, the same for all registrants and types of companies. And there were some cases of inspections during 2020 about this subject here, and some companies were notified because they didn't have a local certificate of analysis to provide to the authorities, so they just had certificates from the headquarter or from the producer, so that it's not in Brazil. And if we consider what's in here in the decree, it's the government can block the products until we provide certificate of analysis for all batches. So for all products, the certificate issued based on local analysis. And this is something to see, to follow carefully, because the trend is that the government may start again new wave of inspections, and because all the companies are now aligned with the same requirement. Publicity and different trademarks for the same registration. So here, different trademarks it can also be, let's say, known as cologne. So you may also heard about cologne products in Brazil. So here, what's different from the previous decree? So first, the government just included the new system that is still under development. So in the future, all publications will occur in the official gazette or inside the new system. In addition, so the registrations now can be applied in Brazil with more than one trademark. So you can apply your product having trademarks A, B, and C, and then you can use in the future so these different trademarks for business to business or any other internal demand, so segmentation of markets, so depending on the company strategy. The disadvantage here is that the clone, so let's say here, this clone will be exactly the same as the matrix product. So the unique difference will be the trademark. And if you demand a product with any difference, so differences on technical products or on use sometimes with additional or less use or crops, then you need to apply using the regular way. So then it will follow the regular timelines. But the government, they do expect with this new adoption a reduction of the products being applied. So because there is a significant number of products today in the regulatory queue that are clones. So with this action, they do expect a reduction in terms of timelines. And the last here from our list are the updates involving the organic agriculture use and on production. So previously, phytosanitary products with approved use for organic agriculture produced exclusively for on use are exempt from registration. What does it mean? Products that will be used, that are used for organic agriculture, be produced on farm. So when we say on farm, but it wasn't clear if this product produced on farm that you do not need registration. It wasn't clear if it could also be used on the conventional production, so agriculture. So the organic agriculture, okay, it was clearly written here, but it wasn't clear about the conventional production system. And now it is. So products, so with organic agriculture approval, so they can be produced for on use, so production on farm, for example, for organic and also for conventional production systems. So this is the difference. And formulated products that are registered using the regular procedure. So these products can also receive the name as product for organic agriculture if approved for sure by the ministries. Finally, there are some other chains that I just listed here on a summary, but it can also impact on some activities. The first one is regarding the batch number notification. So before, so previously, the decree 4074, it established a standard for the batch number codification, and now, so this standard is not valid anymore. So the companies can create their own codification number. They just need to have internal traceability data. So batch number, dates of manufacturing, expiry dates, so everything related to the production to provide to the authorities if they request. But the creation of the batch number here, so it can be from now on based on the manufacturer. It's up to the manufacturer, so they can decide the sales report. So previously it was, I'm sorry, there's a mistake here. Monthly, it's not monthly. It was twice a year. So, and now it's annual. So it's an annual request. There are some new requirements for these sales reports, such as information about sales. So where the products are being sent. So there are some new points to be filled, but it's not twice per year anymore. So it's just annually. This new decree, so it also included an article related to revalidation, rework, and reprocessing. So it's the first time it officially appeared in the Brazilian regulation. So it mentions that only the company needs to guarantee the quality, the efficiency of the product, but a new complementary normative will be developed and published in the near future to better clarify these criteria. But it's something interesting because the first time the government provides so include this in the regulations, so in order to accept it officially. There is an update also involving the certificates of relevant impurities. So companies today, they still need to submit monthly the relevant impurities. So after the production or the importation of products. But now with the decree and with a new complementary normative that it will be published soon. So this demand to apply the certificates will be excluded. So the companies will need just to archive everything. So in companies, so keep this data updated. If the government requests, so the company needs to be ready to provide everything on a short time. This last update also created the figure so a crop product. So let's say a crop pesticide. So this product will be allowed to also include on it non-crop use. So here non-crop we can understand on urban or industrial environments, native forest, and water environments. So before these uses, they could be asked a separated registration to IBAMA. So IBAMA is the responsible for non-crop registrations, and now the companies can have a combined product. So having crop and non-crop uses in the same product, in the same label. And finally, it's also created a figure of official recommendation that will be approved by the authorities. So this is a tool to provide more more flexibility to minor crops. So the government will will determine some uses, some crops. So they will publish as official, and the companies and the users could use as established by the government. So it's a way to facilitate some uses for minor crops in the future. And that's it. I think we covered most of the topics. Sorry for the number of information. So it's not easy to talk about regulations because every time, so the number of changes are significant. So if you have any specific question, you can do it right now, or you can do it later through our channels. So Alexandre, thank you.
Very great webinar, very great speech, very great presentation. Thank you. I would not expect nothing less from you, Bruno. That was very clear. I believe everybody here is very engaged. Everybody here together from the start and to the end. And we have some questions for you. But before we start that, I would like to encourage everybody. We have still like some time remaining to answer the questions. So please do the questions, ask the questions here for the chat, and Bruno will answer all of them. Okay? So Bruno, let's start with a question. If there is not a big change regarding risk assessment from a hazard-based to risk-based, I don't know if I understood well, but is there not a big change regarding risk assessment from a hazard-based on a risk-based?
No, I don't consider as a huge impact. So G8S is now established for classification, and Anvisa already published specific regulations about risk assessment. So it's this update, so this decree update. So it's not providing any significant difference on what is already established in the law in terms of prohibition items. So products considered carcinogenic, mutagenic. So these products, they still can't be registered in Brazil. Provided that, so if during the risk assessment the company can prove safe, so it's still feasible to apply. So it's not, so this update is not bringing anything new about that. So it's already quite clear on Anvisa's regulation.
And also we have some consultation about this subject, right? The risk assessment, they are being discussed by the authorities, so that will come up very soon, right?
Yes, yeah. So risk assessment for in terms of for operators. So this is quite advanced already, and it's something that came to remain. So Brazil is not considering only hazard evaluation as in the past. So risk assessment is something that will be a demand for all applied products in Brazil.
Great. Second question, did the implementation of G8S started some years ago already, right?
Yes. So GAS was established by Anvisa in 2019 for pesticides.
Great. Do you think that Anvisa have lost power of decisions with the new regulation?
Can you repeat it? I lost part.
Do you think that Anvisa have lost power of decision with this new regulation?
No, no, I don't think on these neither IBAMA lose power. So they are still independent. So from MAPA, if Anvisa or if IBAMA, if they for any reason, if they deny a process, so MAPA will follow their decision. So I don't see any change in terms of power here.
That they keep the independence between all the three ministries, right?
Yes, totally independent and
Okay. So, as per new decree, will the Indian agrochemical companies need to apply or pay for the RET if they intend to generate GLP data from Brazilian GLP lab?
apply HET, RET, HET,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So to pay fee,
Yeah, if they will need to pay fee if they intend to generate GLP data from Brazilian GLP lab.
Okay, so for if it's a new active ingredient, then yes, there are some fees involved in the HET process. But if it's a HET for already existing active ingredient, so the companies don't need to pay fee. It's just an administrative work. So then it's not necessary to pay. So if it's an already approved active ingredient, and the companies will need to request the HET just if they have any import demand. So from now on, conducting studies in Brazil, so efficacy residue, toxicotox, so the companies don't need HET anymore for those studies. So it will be necessary just in case the companies need to import samples.
That's a quite improvement, right? Because I remember that ERT takes so long, and that stayed decreasing the timeline during the years, and now they publish this new regulation which reduces much the timeline, which is that is very important to the Brazilian registration, right?
Yeah, I think they realized that the HET was taking more time from internal activities than bringing benefits. So it's basically an administrative analysis, so experimental project, the crops, and so it's something that is bringing new information, and they wanna focus on future field inspection, following the research, and then the HET, if it's not a new active, it's not necessary anymore.
Great. How about the registrations which were already submitted? There is a long queue, a long queue.
Yes, so the queue is quite long today. So actually, the queue will remain the same. The difference, as I mentioned, so they created a transition period, so a 4 years transition period. So the government will take this this moment to try to anticipate as many analyses they can, so to bring the queue according to the new timelines. So today, yes. So if you apply a product today and check a product that is being evaluated, so we will see a gap of 7 years, sometimes more. And so the reason they are reducing some administrative work, such as example, HAT. So it's administrative work for them. So some post registrations. So they are flexibilizing. So some post registrations. So everything is let's say so they can organize themselves internally to focus on the analysis of the new registrations and also the field inspections. So that's where they will focus in the future.
Great. Do you think that the extreme reduction in the timeline will also extremely affect the quality of the evaluations?
No, I don't see any loss in terms of technical analysis. We are seeing reducing the analysis timeline by reducing other activities, so other bureaucratic activities. So the technical evaluation will remain as strong as it's today. So they are developing softwares to help on the technical analysis. So they are doing some internal activities to try to accelerate it, but without losing quality. So for sure they will not make the company's life easier in terms of analysis.
Okay. This next one will be more a comment, but I think worth that we mention here to everybody participate in that discussion. I guess the officers will ask for a lot of support from the consultants outside during the transition period. Hope they could follow the scheduled timeline. That would be interesting to do it because the outside consultants has already been experienced about this new regulation, which is being adopted in Brazil right now. So it's a good approach if the Brazilian authorities do in such a way, don't you think?
Yes. So we already saw the government doing partnerships with local companies, so consultants, independent consultants. They are also, for some cases, they are using international, so data published by other regulatory agencies, such as publications from Europe, United States, and others. So there are several actions to try to reduce this timeline. And for sure, if necessary, they can hire external consultants to support on some activities. We already saw that occurring for reevaluations. So it's quite common on reevaluations. So they involve external consultants, and yeah, it's a tool that can be used.
Great to know. Another question: clone registrations will then become notifications?
We need to separate. So If you intend to have a clone equal to your matrix, you can use the new tool that they just created. That the company can provide, can include more than one trademark in the application. So when your registration be approved, you will have trademarks A, B, and C. Then you can do whatever you want. So provide a different trademark to other company or do internal segmentation, but the products will be exactly the same. The unique difference will be the trademark. On the other hand, if you want to have a clone with some differences from the matrix product, different uses, maybe less uses. Sometimes companies apply clones with less uses. Then you will need to apply as a regular product. It can be also called clone internally, but for the authorities will be a regular formulated product. The analysis can be a little bit faster if you mention that that dossier was already evaluated, but it's not something too different on what we are seeing today. So it depends on the company's necessity. So if it's the same, so I think the new tool will be quite useful. But if you demand a different product, then you will need to follow the regular requirement.
Thank you. Next question. Could you please mention the criteria of MAPA for prioritization of actives and products?
So there are I think 4 or 5. So MAPA considers a product. So during a prioritization, let's say selection, they consider if that product is used for pests with greater phytosanitary risk. So, for example, MAPA established in the past that soybean rust is a phytosanitary problem. So, if your product has this recommendation, it's one criteria that you follow. Products that are used on integrated management to avoid resistance is another criteria that is in the regulation. Increase of competitiveness is another one, to stimulate the approval of new generics. So that's the reason. And also, if your product stimulates national manufacturing and formulation. So national, it means production, synthesis, and or formulation in Brazil. So everything together, so combined, will define the products that are selected to be prioritized or not. What MAPA will do, so the next step is to develop a regulation, so describing how they select. So we don't know, maybe a rating regulation. So depending on the characteristics here, the products may be rated on a different way. And by the end, so the product can be, so the most rated products will be the priority. So we don't know. They will develop this criteria selection. And so in order to be clear, and so the procedure be clear to all registrants.
Right, so we have another question about prioritization. but I believe that you have been already answered that. So what are criteria for priority of the application? That would be prioritization of the application.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, it's basically the same as the previous one.
Right. And we have a congrats here from one of our audience that thanks us very much for sharing all the helpful and important information. The webinar was very successful. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for the sender of this message. We are very glad and we are very pleased that this information was helpful to you all. Do you have any other question that you want to share here with us? We still have time to answer it if you have so. So I don't believe there is any other questions. So if said that, thank you very much for the audiences here in this webinar. Thanks for sharing, welcome. Thanks very much for this great presentation and for answering the questions. That was a pleasure. And we will keep you posted. We will have very soon another webinar. And please follow us at the LinkedIn platform, where is the place that we share all the webinars that Smart Talks plays out. Okay, so thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, Bruno, for your wonderful presentation. And I hope to see you soon in our next webinar. So Bruno.
Thank you, Alexandre. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all attendees and have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. See you soon.